In a previous video about language learning strategy, we were talking about something, and then at the end it was like, and that's why language learning is an entry point to Buddhist enlightenment. Kind of joking, but maybe kind of not. And a couple comments about, oh, could we talk more about that? So let's actually talk more about that today. I've got 5 ways that language learning practice reminds me of Zen things. The first is the one that I alluded to in the previous video, which is that a big part of being able to speak effectively in a foreign language is having the discipline to not let your mind outrun the language that you have. So in English, I can think about as fast as I can speak in English, or maybe you still think faster than you can speak even in your native language. But the point is that it's likely that you think much faster in your native language than you can speak the language you're learning, right? If I only know 10 words in Spanish, obviously I'm thinking a whole lot more than I could say with those 10 words in Spanish. So the way I think about that is you have 2 options. Either you can learn more Spanish or you can think more simply, right? And of course we want to learn more Spanish, but at any given moment, right now, I can't just know more Spanish, but I can simplify my thinking. It's kind of like how if like a business is spending too much, you have 2 choices. You can earn more revenue or you can bring down your spending, but often earning more revenue makes you have more spending because you need to invest in order to gain the revenue. So the best thing to do is try to lower the spending, right? Same with like personal finance. So anyway, the same type of idea, right? So the idea is you got to be able to reduce the simplicity, reduce the complexity, simplify your thinking to match the current level of the target language where you are, right? The idea is this. If you only know 50 words in Spanish, then only think with those 50 words. If you only know 10 words in a language, then only think with those 10 words. If you only know 1 word, then only think with that word. And if you don't know any words in a language, then you don't think at all. And that's the Zen no mind. So it is kind of funny, but it is kind of true. And I swear I've noticed that through language learning and language practicing, speaking practice, I feel like there is this almost like a muscle that you train, which is being able to slow down your thinking. Concept number 2 is called path of least resistance. All right, it's the idea that our thoughts can flow through the language that we're using, like how water flows. And this is a very Taoist idea, very Bruce Lee, right? Be like water, go where is lowest, like don't try to come up, and so on. Where this comes into play a lot is in the OPI thing. OPI is Oral Proficiency Interview. It's the military style speaking test that tests how well a person can speak the language that they're learning. And the way it works is that if I'm taking the test, I'm just being asked questions. So I have an interviewer who's saying, all right, let's begin. They start asking me questions. Now, at first, it's easy and there's only one answer, like, what's your name, right? But then it starts getting into questions where I could potentially say a lot of things. And so we kind of go back to thing 1, which is how complex do I think or how simply can I think? But more specifically here, the way that the thoughts can flow like water through the language to produce my answer to the OPI question is like this. If I can think of the next verb starting point that I need, so the verb starting point is like, so say the question is like, tell me about your recent vacation, like where's the last place you went and what did you do? And I have to say that now like in Arabic, right? One way to do it is think of all the things about the vacation and then try to match the Arabic to it. The other way to do it is think about the verb starting points I have and think of myself flowing down a river looking for verb starting points. And so like the word for I went is whatever it is, right? I went to Mexico with my family and we stayed here, right? If I don't know the word for stay, then I avoid it. You understand? If there's a rock there then I find the path of least resistance. So I don't know how to say stayed in the language. So I just say we went there and we were there for this amount of time. And we went again, and then there's another word I don't know. So if I don't know that word, I don't even try to, like, there's another rock there, so I have to find a way to go around the rock. It's finding a path of least resistance for your thoughts to flow through in order to produce, to express thoughts. It reminds me of the Taoist tale of the butcher, who the king comes, or emperor comes to this butcher who's apparently, he's like an amazing butcher and also like an enlightened guy, right? And he's like, so what's your deal? And the butcher says, well, amateur butchers need to change their knife every week because they hack. Good butchers can get away with sharpening the knife every like other month. Me, I sharpened it once I got it, and I've never had to sharpen it again. Why? Because I never hack. Wherever there's something hard, I go around it. Okay. When it comes to the effort you put into language learning, people say you grind, like you got to put in that, just you go, oh, gotta just go, it got to be hard. Dude, if it's that hard, you're probably doing something wrong. Typically, when someone's good at doing something, it's easier to do it. Like imagine like Michael Jordan versus, like if you're high level at something, it's easier. No, like imagine the snowboarder, like the professional, like it's less effort to be good at something, you know? So if your practice involves a whole lot of hard, you're not practicing like you play. Because if you're good, it's not hard. You see? So why should it be that hard? If we go back to the OPI style training, where I'm throwing questions at you, you got to answer. Do you want to try to do that hard thing? Or just find the path of least resistance? They say that nature abhors effort, extra effort. You know what I mean? Like, be as lazy. It's nature is as lazy as possible. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I want to learn Russian, but I'm too lazy." I'm like, "All right, well, you're probably a good language learner. Like, if you're lazy, you're probably a good language learner. Why? Because you're going to be happy with easy stuff that works, as opposed to the go-getter who's just like, oh, I'm memorizing. You might not even be doing the right thing. So the path of least resistance, the Taoist Butcher, your flowing thoughts, and making it easy on yourself, as opposed to grinding. If something's grinding, that's a problem, no? Like in my car, if something's grinding, like all right, so I don't know. I mean, grinding is overrated, maybe, huh? Zen point three in language learning is the saying that no teacher can teach anyone anything. They can only point out the path. All right. I love this as a language teacher. Totally feel that. Teacher is not there to go any questions. In fact, as a teacher, I like to start a class saying, "What are your questions?" Right? Typically, it's the other way around. The teacher goes, "Oh, here's your lesson." I feel like that's pushing a chain. Like you're trying to you're gonna guess what they need. You know, the teacher isn't there to force you to know something. The teacher is there to be your conversation partner, to show you the way, and then it's the learner who walks the path. They say all learning is self-learning. One more point about a teacher offering information before it's needed, before it's asked for. If you think about it, if imagine I tell you something that you weren't even asking about, you know? By me telling you that thing, I draw attention to the fact, in your mind, I draw attention to the fact that you didn't know it. So, and then I tell you what it was. And so if I said, oh, the something for the name, like some fact, your mind goes, oh, I didn't even know that I didn't know that. I wasn't even thinking about it. Now I know that I don't know it. And at the same time, now I know it. So basically, me telling you something you didn't ask for digs a little hole just to fill the hole, and you're left at zero. It's a wash. Okay? So if you can believe that, imagine what's happening in every classroom everywhere. It's a teacher's going, here's what you don't know, 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 now you know it, now you don't, now you don't, now you know it, and you're left at zero. So it's literally doing nothing. It's a treadmill. Like you run, the faster you run, the less you get anywhere. You got to make me feel like I want to know. And so you have to if you're the teacher, you need to somehow find a reason to draw attention to the places that I know, and then make me go, oh, there's already a hole there. Please fill the hole. Then it's a gain. Zen point 4 is the concept of the beginner's mind, and the quote that I'm going to give for this section comes from this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki. One of my favorite quotes by him is, it says, "Hell is not a punishment, it's training." The very first quote in that book is, "In the mind of the beginner, there are many possibilities. In the mind of the expert, there are very few." The way this plays into language teaching, for me most of all, is the idea that we can constantly innovate in methodology and teaching style and strategy. So as soon as someone goes, "Oh no, that's not backed," source, that expert has very few possibilities. And this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's done. This is the best way it's done. There's no room for evolution. There's no room for change. So you may not be a beginner language teacher. You could be an expert language teacher. But look, for me personally, as soon as I tell myself, "Oh, I'm an expert," I limit myself a lot, right? Like if I say, "Oh, this is the method. This is how I do it. This is how it should be done. Everyone else should do it this way." And this is it. Like the books are closed. Extremely limiting. I'd rather have the beginner's mind all the time, which is I am learning still, constantly learning from the student more than anything. Different book I read, the guy said, and I loved it. The guy says, "I owe a lot to my mentors because I learned so much. I owe more to my colleagues because I learned even more from them, but I owe the most to my students because I learned the most from my students." And that's the exact way I feel. It's the resistance of the person's question. Why do you do this in this language? How should I do for whatever people's questions are in language learning? That's the friction that polishes the jewel. Fifth and final Zen point, at least for this video, is this quote. This might be my favorite quote in the whole world. It's the flower arranger, when he arranges the flowers, first arranges his mind, and then arranges the flowers, and then arranges the mind of whoever looks at the flowers. That's the whole deal of art. I've heard it said that the joy of someone seeing art or hearing music is in the recognizing of patterns. Like in the essential level, it's the recognizing patterns that's delightful. So as a teacher, as you learn a language or organize your mind according to the patterns of the language, first you arrange your mind as the teacher, then you arrange the language in the form of a conversation, a lesson, a book, a video, whatever it may be, which then arranges the mind of the person who's learning the language. So it's just a full flower arranging situation. These have been my 5 Zen points. I think there's more stuff. If this provokes ideas for you, I'd like you to let me know. I'd like to talk about it. All right. Leave you with a quote. No explanation here, but just one last Zen quote that I think is amazing. It says, "The sound of rain needs no translation."